coming? Okay, you can come. I know as soon as you heard me with the sound check, you're in here. I would rather that I can see. Thank you, because your nails need to be clipped. And yeah, it's lethal right now with those claws. Yes, it's lethal. Did you want to say hi to everybody before we begin? I know. Like literally just snoring her butt off 5 seconds ago. Soon as you hear a little bit of the microphone and I'm like, hello, doing a sound test, bam, Taffy comes into the room and is like, are we on? Are we on? Is it time? Yes, it's time, baby. It's time. Yeah. But we have work to do. So let me get to my work. Let me start this and let me get a Okay, so we're good. We're recording. And this is a video for October 2023. I know some folks are like, gee, what the hell? That's a little bit ways off. And I don't know if I want to know about stuff yet. Right. And I get it. I'm right there with you. But there are certain cosmic. She was trying to bite my wires. Did you see her mouth open? You probably did. And I probably didn't. Hey, yeah, I'm talking to you, furry thing. So when there's a cosmic event, and to be exact, when there is an eclipse, if you have, I've been a lot of comments recently. If you have an eclipse that is matching by degree the eclipse, so say you have an eclipse at 10 degrees, let's pretend, or let's pretend you have an eclipse at 5 degrees. Let's pretend you have something in your chart at 5 degrees. It also has to match the sign that the eclipse is in. So let's just cut to the chase. We have an eclipse coming up and it's in October, right? October has 2 eclipses. That's correct because it's eclipse season. Eclipses rarely come alone, right? That's why they call it eclipse season. So October's first eclipse, the video's already up on the channel. If you haven't seen it, you probably want to go watch it. The videos have to come up when it comes to eclipses 6 months in advance because shit starts happening that soon for you people who have something that matches the eclipse. So the one in October, the second one in October, is a lunar eclipse in Scorpio. Lunar, full moon, eclipse in Scorpio, and it is at 5 degrees of Scorpio. Okay, so this means you could have events happening 6 months before and, maybe kind of confused or like, what the hell's going on? It's like stuff's happening and I know stuff's happening. And so seeing it on paper and hearing me talk about it or somebody else who's talking about the eclipse in October should at least give you some understanding and some clarity as to what's going on, why it's going on, and like the timeline, because I had a really good question under a video and this kind of prompted me. I mean, this video was slated to come up and be recorded anyhow, but when I get viewers' questions, I'm always like, yeah, let's fold this into this. It's a great question. And it says, gee, I'm on your channel binge watching right now. Thank you, by the way. And I just want to say that the May eclipse that happened, actually the May 19th, well, first of all, there's multiple things in here. The May 5th eclipse happened on my sun. Then the May 19th new moon happened on my north node. And I haven't noticed anything big happening in my life since those eclipses, meaning afterwards, right? Nothing that I'm conscious of anyway. Is there a time frame that I should be keeping an eye out for in which the energy may play out? And so that's a really great question. And I gave a quick answer to the viewer, but we're going to kind of talk about that here while we're folding in the October eclipse. So I started talking about, hi, Mama, I got both hands on you. You should be really thrilled, right? So the both eclipses in October, again, I'll link the other one below so that you can see it if you haven't. because you could have events happening already now, but also pay attention to this one because it's in a different sign, right? The first one in the month of October, the eclipse was in Libra. This one is in Scorpio, right? So I'm going to pull up a chart so that you can see these things, and I'll go big, I'll go large so that we can see it without being confused, because my charts have so much stuff on them. I know. I get it. I'm a little crazy that way. But the thing about this eclipse is that it is a lunar eclipse. Okay. So when you have a lunar eclipse, that's the first piece you got to understand. There's multiple pieces to this, though. It's not just one piece. It's understanding that lunar means it's a full moon eclipse, which means we're going to see the sun and the moon at opposite ends of each other. Or Taffy at one, the sun, and the moon over here, G, right? We got Taffy and G, one at each end. And I called Taffy the sun because it's Leo energy, it's cat energy. Why am I saying that? Because the sun is the ruler of Leo energy. Aha. Right. Fascinating. And so a full moon is when you have the sun at one end and the moon at the other. But because this is lunar eclipse, this tells us the moon is involved, right? Not just the full moon itself, but a moon's node. So we have to find out, is this going to be a south node eclipse or a north node eclipse? So I'm going to dive into that, right? But I also have to speak upon the duration of an eclipse. I always have it under the videos. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed that. Some people are really good about reading all the details, and so they go through all the stuff under the comments. And so I always try to throw extra little nuggets down there that I might not have talked about, or that, may have been too much to include in the video, because once a chart goes up, it's like information overload. And I totally get that. But the thing about astrology is that you got to kind of take all the information in piece by piece and then put it all together and look at the whole picture. Right. And I know that's hard to do. And this is why people, I think, usually have a really hard time with astrology videos in general, because it's like you're slamming me with so much information, and so it is. It's tricky. It's hard. So I get it. And I'm trying to do this in a way where it's going to be a-okay. We can all do this together. So this is what I'm going to do. We're going to draw up on this chart. Okay. I'm going to put some marks on here, and we'll highlight some main events. And so the first thing I'm going to highlight is, when is this eclipse exactly, right? So we're going to go there. And there it is for you. October 28th. So the end of October 28th, it's at 3:24 p.m. And this is in my time zone, Central Daylight Time Zone. So it really matters, right? Some of you watch from on the other side of the world. Adjust for the time zone that you're living in, okay? And because it's let's show the lunar eclipse, right? Because it's a lunar eclipse and it's in Scorpio, there's the sun, Scorpio, 5 degrees and 9 minutes. And I think I said Scorpio. Let's back up a minute. I'm going to just be honest with you. My mind was very, very, very focused on the Scorpio segment. The moon, because it's a lunar eclipse, there's the moon in Taurus. You see that? Yeah. So for anybody who's listening, I talked about how this is a lunar eclipse. So did you catch the mistake I just made? Yeah. My mind started focusing on the Scorpio bit. Not that it is important. It is important. But I spoke about how we had an eclipse at the beginning of this in October in Libra, and how the next eclipse is in Scorpio, right? And Scorpio is a player in this, but you just saw that I had the sun on Scorpio, because that's where it is at the time of this eclipse on this date, right? But where's the moon? It's in Taurus. The moon is in Taurus. So because it's a lunar eclipse, this is a Taurus eclipse. And I said this was a Scorpio eclipse. I made a mistake. If it was, well, I'm going to leave that alone because I don't want to confuse anybody. But yes, G made a mistake. My mind was focusing because I have something at Scorpio at 5 degrees. Just so that you understand. And I was thinking of my mom, and I was thinking, I know my mom has, I was thinking of her chart, and so my mind was going there simultaneously and blah blah blah. But I just wanted to make sure that you understood that I had misspoke. This is a lunar eclipse in Taurus at 5 degrees. 5 degrees and 9 minutes. You see how that little 9 is over there? Yeah. 5 degrees, 9 minutes. Lunar, because it's the moon. The Scorpio piece is important. Anytime you have an eclipse, you pay attention to both ends of the eclipse. You pay attention to this one, 5 degrees Taurus over here, and you pay attention to where the sun is in Scorpio at 5 degrees. Important, because those are two areas of your life that will be affected. Every time we have an eclipse, it is two areas of your life that are affected. The point of the eclipse and the opposition of the eclipse. That's what you pay attention to. I know I get a lot of people who will come into the comments and be like, but I got such and such training, but I got such and such squaring, but I got such and such, sextiling or whatever. And the teaching is you only need to pay attention to the point of the eclipse and a conjunction, of course. Like if this eclipse is on your sun, if this eclipse is on your moon, if this eclipse is on your Uranus or any planet or point that you have there, right? Let's pretend somebody has let's pretend this Jupiter was at 5 degrees in Taurus, right? I've been looking at a few people's charts recently, and they got Jupiter at 5 degrees in Taurus, and it makes a lot of sense to me because stuff's already happening in their lives. They have Jupiter at 5 degrees in Taurus. And remember, 6 months in advance. 509 Taurus energy, what does it mean? We got to talk about the Taurus keywords, and we got to talk about the definition of the moon because it's a lunar eclipse. The lunar cycle is a big deal. Think about feminine energy. Think about the sign of Cancer. All of that is part of the meanings of a lunar thing, of a lunar event. Okay? Now, the duration of this eclipse, I will have in the details under the video. But what I'm going to do right here, right now, is talk about why that's important. Why do we need to know the duration of the eclipse? Because this point right here, this 5 degrees, let me change my color out a little bit. This 5 degrees stays hot. Anytime there's an eclipse, the degree itself of that eclipse and its opposition, those points stay hot. They are alive. They are active. And so anytime we have any other event after the eclipse, let's say this Jupiter, see how it's retrograding here? Great example. Let's say this Jupiter retrogrades back to 5 degrees and touches on this point. It's going to reactivate this. It's going to reactivate this monetary thing, money, banking system, my values, my creature comforts, who I love, what I love, my values. Do I love myself? Self-worth. Taurus energy is all that. Think of my desires and how I receive. So it's your income, the money in the bank. When you work and you get paid, it's how you receive. It's also, sometimes people will just gift you things. How do you receive? Some people are uncomfortable because they're so fiery and independent. And I had a hard time dealing with this for a long time, actually. Very independent, very, as much earth as I have a lot of fire as well. And so I always felt like if somebody was giving me something, it kind of felt to me in my mind somewhere, some way, I felt as though like, wait a minute, I can take care of myself. You don't need to give to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I felt like it was almost like somebody giving kind of felt like an insult in a way. And maybe the insult is way too harsh. Yeah, I just wasn't really good at receiving. So I had to change that Because what happens is when you aren't real good at that, or when you're uncomfortable with it, you push it away. You push away all the good that could have been coming your way all along. But because you held it here, right? It was like a refusal here. So in other words, you were closing doors on people and opportunities, events. You were closing doors because of a thing that you had here, right? A thought about yourself and your own self-worth, possibly even. Like, am I worth it? Right? Yeah, that's a big deal. So the hot button would be this 5 degrees. So if this Jupiter retrogrades back and touches this 5 degrees, it exaggerates, it expands upon, it adds to more of these keywords for Taurus. But hold on, it was a lunar eclipse. And being a lunar eclipse meant a release, a let go. I no longer value this anymore. I'm done. That's what a lunar eclipse is about. Think of a woman's lunar cycle. I know people are probably like, what the hell? Why do you got to refer everything to a woman? It's the moon cycles. It's 28 days. Do you know anything about a woman's natural cycle in her body? Right? 28 days is significant, isn't it, women? It sure is. And what do we know about the moon cycles up in the sky other than the fact that there's a 28-day cycle, right? Every 14 days, it's either a new moon or a full moon. A new moon is a time of building back up again. The full moon is a time when we're releasing it and letting it all out now. You follow? So it's really significant. It's super significant. And it has to do with the North Node. Why? Because the North Node is closest to this eclipse point. You see, that's the North Node right there. It's closest to this eclipse point. So it has to do with the future of our values, because I'm weaving in the Taurus keywords, the future of our values. North Node, the future. North Node is all about the next 18 months of our lives. It's all about where we're headed. But it's the North Node in Aries. So we're getting complex. We're getting deep. We're trying to figure out, holy crap, what does this have to do with? So there's strong, fiery, independent energy here. It's Aries. Think of Aries energy as I want to be starting something. I'm the great initiator. That's Aries energy. It loves to initiate things, but it loves to be first. Now, I don't want to go too deep in this because we're going to have a part 2 where we'll go even deeper as we get closer, okay? But this is important because self and my freedoms, the freedoms of my body, body autonomy, body identity, how I identify is huge here. Huge. And I don't think it's a coincidence, folks. Think about this. How I identify, and this is love, this is desire, this is feminine energy. Aries is masculine energy, and this is a lunar eclipse. And that point, 5 degrees, will stay hot for the duration of the eclipse. So under the video, go read the duration of this eclipse. And if you read closely, it explains there that the duration of the eclipse is, for example, because I didn't look at it yet, so this is why I'm saying it'll be under the video. But typically they're between like 3 to 5 years for the most part. I'm sorry, let me back that up. The duration of eclipse is from the beginning of an eclipse as it actually happens and the end of it, okay? I know this is getting confusing. Just remember the duration of eclipse in hours, when you convert it, 1 hour equals 1 year. That's all you need to know. In the conversion, 1 year equals 1 hour. 1 hour equals 1 year. So that's how long that button, that's how long that eclipse point stays activated. I know, right? Like, that's a big deal. Holy crap. Dang. Right? All right. Stay tuned for part 2. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Below the video, I'll have all the degrees for those of you who like to pay attention to the degrees in your chart. Again, if you don't know and you want to know, just comment below.